The hyperspace tunnel collapsed behind the human fleet like a closing fist, spitting 47 ships into the middle of what could only be described as chaos. Duke pressed his weathered hands against the command console, gray eyes scanning the tactical display as plasma fire lit up the darkness between two massive alien armadas. His fingers instinctively found the worn metal coin in his pocket, a habit that had kept him steady through countless battles. "Admiral, we've got two distinct fleets engaging." Sam's voice cut through the bridge's tense silence, her auburn hair catching the light from her tactical station. Her green eyes darted between readouts, fingers flying over controls with surgical precision. "Estimated combined forces? Jesus! Over 300 ships." The chief engineer's gruff voice crackled over the comm from the engine room. "Sir, our jump drives are still cycling down. We're sitting ducks for the next 4 minutes." Duke straightened, his squared shoulders filling out his uniform as he watched the alien vessels tear each other apart. Sleek, crystalline ships with impossibly sharp angles traded volleys with bulkier, organic-looking craft that seemed to pulse with bioluminescent energy. Neither side had noticed the human fleet's arrival, yet. "Sam, tactical analysis, what are we looking at?" Her foot tapped a rapid rhythm against the deck plating as she processed the data streams. "Two fleets, roughly equal size. The crystalline ships are using directed energy weapons, highly coordinated. The organic ones are firing some kind of plasma projectile, more chaotic but individually powerful." She paused, leaning forward as her multi-tool clicked in her fingers. "Sir, there are wounded ships on both sides, falling out of formation." Duke watched a crippled crystalline vessel drift helplessly as debris from its shattered wing sparkled in the starlight. On the opposite side, one of the organic ships vented atmosphere from multiple hull breaches, its bioluminescent patterns flickering like a dying heartbeat. Duke rubbed the coin between his thumb and forefinger, feeling its familiar weight. 40 years of military service had taught him that first impressions in space were often last impressions. The galaxy had forgotten Earth existed. Humanity was nothing more than a footnote in some alien database, if they were mentioned at all. But here they were, witnesses to a battle that would likely determine the fate of thousands. "What's our shield status?" he asked, his low voice carrying easily across the bridge. "Not for defense." Duke stepped forward, his weathered face set with determination. "Communications, open a channel to both fleets, all frequencies." The communications officer, a young lieutenant whose hands trembled slightly, looked up in shock. "Sir, they haven't even acknowledged our presence. We don't know their languages, their protocols." "Universal emergency signals exist for a reason, Lieutenant." Duke's gray eyes held steady. "Sam, I need you to plot intercept courses for the wounded ships, both sides." Sam's head snapped up, her green eyes wide. "Admiral, you want us to position ourselves between dying ships and the ones trying to kill them," Duke finished. "Yes." The alien liaison scales rippled with what Duke had learned to recognize as surprise. "Admiral, this is highly irregular. Intervening in an alien conflict without understanding the political ramifications." "I understand the only political ramification that matters," Duke interrupted, his voice growing sharper. "People are dying out there. Human, alien, doesn't matter. We can save some of them." Sam's foot had stopped tapping. She stared at her tactical display, calculations racing behind her eyes. "It's actually doable. If we extend our shields to maximum coverage and position the fleet in a defensive sphere around the damaged vessels." Her fingers danced over the controls. "We'd be vulnerable to concentrated fire, but our shields are more advanced than anything I'm seeing out there." "Do it." The bridge erupted in controlled chaos as Sam's tactical plan cascaded through the fleet. Duke watched the main display as 47 human ships broke formation, each one racing toward a different wounded vessel. The movement was so precise, so coordinated, that both alien fleets paused their bombardment. Fleet positioning complete, Sam reported, her voice tight with concentration. Shield overlap at maximum efficiency. We're now protecting 17 ships total, 9 crystalline, 8 organic. The aftermath of their maneuver settled into an eerie silence. Both alien fleets had stopped firing, their formations shifting as they tried to process what had just happened. Duke could almost feel the confusion radiating from hundreds of alien minds as they stared at the human fleet. Unknown vessels, a harsh clicking voice suddenly filled the bridge through the comm system. You have interfered with hegemony military operations. Identify yourselves immediately or be destroyed. Before Duke could respond, a second voice joined the first, this one deeper, with an odd musical quality. Strangers, your actions puzzle us. Do you claim these wounded as your own? We do not recognize your species or your authority. Duke stepped toward the main screen, his hands clasped behind his back. The worn coin pressed against his palm as he prepared to make humanity's first impression on a galaxy that had forgotten they existed. This is Admiral Duke of the Earth Defense Fleet, he said, his voice carrying the weight of command earned through decades of service. We claim no authority over your conflict, but we do claim the right to preserve life. The wounded under our protection will remain there until they can be safely evacuated or repaired. The silence that followed stretched for nearly a minute. Duke watched the tactical display as both alien fleets repositioned, weapons still powered but no longer targeting each other. Instead, hundreds of alien weapon systems now focused on the small human fleet. Sam moved to stand beside him, her multi-tool forgotten as she crossed her arms. Well, Admiral, I'd say we definitely got their attention. Duke allowed himself a small smile, the kind that had steadied his crews through the worst of battles. That was the idea, Commander. Now let's see if we can keep it long enough to make them listen. The chief engineer's voice crackled over the comm. Jump drives back online, sir, just in case you want to get us the hell out of here. Negative, Chief. We're exactly where we need to be. Duke's gray eyes reflected the distant stars as alien voices began chattering across dozens of communication frequencies. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity had returned, and they weren't the same species that had been dismissed centuries ago. The wounded ships drifted under the protection of human shields, their crews presumably staring in wonder at the strange new players who had inserted themselves into their war. Duke felt the familiar weight of command settle on his shoulders, but for the first time in years it felt like anticipation rather than burden. Earth had been forgotten, but forgetting worked both ways. While the galaxy had dismissed humanity, humans had been watching, learning, and preparing. Now, as plasma fire cooled in the darkness between the stars, Duke knew their isolation was about to end. The real question was whether the galaxy was ready for what humanity had become. The tactical display painted a picture that would have made lesser commanders reach for the jump drive controls. 2 alien fleets, each consisting of over 150 ships, maintained firing positions, while the human fleet sat in the crossfire like a cork in a bottle. Duke stood at the center of his bridge, the worn coin rolling between his fingers as he studied the alien formations. 3 hours had passed since their dramatic intervention, and the initial shock was wearing thin. Admiral, we're receiving multiple hail requests, the communications officer reported, sweat beading on his forehead. The crystalline fleet is demanding we withdraw. The organic fleet is, well, they're asking if we're insane. Sam snorted from her position at the tactical station, her green eyes tracking the micro-movements of alien ships. I'm starting to wonder that myself. We're outnumbered 6-1, sitting between 2 fleets that were perfectly happy killing each other 5 minutes ago. Status of the wounded? Duke asked, ignoring the implied criticism. The alien liaison turned from their communication console, scales shimmering with nervous energy. The crystalline vessels are responding to our medical assistance offers. Their damaged ships are grateful, though they seem confused by our methods. The organic fleet's wounded are more suspicious, but they're not refusing aid. Duke nodded, his gray eyes never leaving the main display. Both alien fleets had shifted into what his tactical training recognized as siege formations. close enough to maintain overwhelming firepower, far enough back to avoid getting caught in crossfire if shooting started. It was the kind of standoff that could last days or end in seconds. "Sir," Sam's voice carried a note of urgency, "I'm picking up movement in the crystalline fleet. 3 ships breaking formation, heading our way." The main screen shifted to show the approaching vessels. They were beautiful in an alien way, all sharp angles and translucent surfaces that seemed to bend light around them. As they drew closer, Duke could see that their hulls were covered in intricate geometric patterns that pulsed with soft blue light. Unknown Earth vessels. The harsh clicking voice from earlier filled the bridge. "I am War Commander Zethrix of the 3rd Hegemony Battle Fleet. You will explain your interference in our lawful military action." Duke stepped forward, his shoulders squared in the posture that had commanded respect from human crews for decades. "War Commander, I am Admiral Duke. Our interference, as you call it, was motivated by concern for the wounded. We have no stake in your conflict." A pause, then. "You claim neutrality, yet you protect our enemies." "We protect the wounded," Duke corrected, his voice steady. "If your ships had been damaged, we would have done the same." Sam's foot began its familiar tapping rhythm as she monitored the organic fleet's response. "Admiral, the bioships are moving too. Looks like 4 vessels approaching from the opposite vector." The second voice that had spoken earlier returned, this one belonging to what appeared to be the organic fleet's commander. "I am Nestsinger Vorthak of the Collective Harmony. Your species is unknown to us, Earth Admiral. Your actions suggest either great wisdom or great foolishness." Duke allowed himself a small smile. "In my experience, the two are often indistinguishable." The chief engineer's voice crackled over the comm from below. "Admiral, I've got teams working on some of these alien wounded. Their tech is interesting, different from anything in our databases, but the basic principles are sound. We can help them." "Do it, Chief." Sam leaned closer to her console, her auburn hair falling across her face as she processed incoming data. "Sir, I'm reading massive energy signatures from both fleets. They're not powering up weapons. It's something else. Like they're scanning us?" The alien liaison's amber eyes brightened. "Admiral, I believe they are attempting to access our databases. Standard first contact protocols among spacefaring species include technological and cultural exchanges." "Can they get in?" Duke asked. Sam's fingers flew over her controls, her multi-tool clicking rapidly. "Not through our firewalls, but—" She paused, her green eyes meeting Duke's gray ones. "Sir, they're going to realize pretty quickly that our technology doesn't match anything in their records. We're not just unknown, we're completely outside their technological paradigms." Before Duke could respond, both alien commanders spoke simultaneously. "Your ships, they do not conform to any known design principles. Your shield harmonics are impossible. How do you generate such coherent energy matrices?" Duke felt the coin's familiar weight as he considered his response. This was the moment he'd anticipated and dreaded in equal measure. Humanity's technology had evolved along different lines than the rest of the galaxy, driven by necessity and isolation. They were about to discover just how different. "War Commander Zethrix, Nestsinger Vorthak," Duke began, his voice carrying across both communication channels. "Humanity has been absent from galactic affairs for some time. Our development has followed unique paths." Silence stretched across space as both alien fleets processed this information. Duke watched the tactical display as scanning intensified, dozens of alien sensors focusing on the human fleet. Then Zethrix's voice returned, carrying a note of what might have been respect. "Admiral Duke, our tactical analysis suggests your 47 vessels could hold defensive positions against combined fleets 3 times our size. This is unprecedented for an unknown species." Vorthak's musical tones added, "Your wounded tending shows wisdom, but your fleet shows strength. We are curious about your people's intentions." Sam moved to stand beside Duke, her voice pitched low enough that only he could hear. "Admiral, they're scared. Both fleets are maintaining distance not because they don't want to fight us, but because they're not sure they can win." Duke nodded almost imperceptibly. The galaxy had forgotten Earth, but they were about to remember why that might have been a mistake. Not because humanity was aggressive, but because humanity was unpredictable. War Commander Nest Singer, Duke addressed both alien leaders, we have no intention of involving ourselves in your conflict beyond protecting the wounded. However, we are curious about the nature of this war. Perhaps we could arrange a meeting. Another long pause, then Zethrix responded, you would negotiate with both sides simultaneously. We would listen to both sides, Duke corrected. Understanding tends to prevent unnecessary bloodshed. Vorthak's harmonious voice carried what sounded like amusement. Earth Admiral, your species speaks of understanding in the middle of a war zone. Are all humans so optimistic? Duke's weathered face creased into what his crew had learned to recognize as his most dangerous smile. Nest Singer, you have no idea. The standoff continued, but something had shifted in the balance. Both alien fleets maintained their positions, but their aggressive postures had relaxed slightly. The human fleet, impossibly outnumbered, had somehow claimed the high ground in a conflict they'd stumbled into by accident. Sam's tactical display showed the complex dance of ships adjusting positions, maintaining threat vectors while avoiding outright provocation. It was, she realized, exactly the kind of impossible situation that Duke somehow always managed to navigate. Chief, Duke's voice carried to the engine room, how are our guests doing? Better than expected, sir. Turns out, injured is injured, regardless of species, though I've got to say some of this alien engineering is giving me ideas. Duke rubbed the coin between his fingers, feeling the weight of decisions that would echo across the galaxy. Humanity's return to galactic affairs wasn't going to be subtle, but maybe that was exactly what a war-torn galaxy needed, someone too stubborn to back down and too optimistic to give up. The stars watched silently as 3 fleets held position in the darkness, each waiting for the others to reveal their true intentions. But Duke had already made his intentions clear. Humanity was back, and they were going to be impossible to ignore. The makeshift conference room aboard Duke's flagship buzzed with nervous energy as representatives from both alien fleets materialized via holographic projection. War Commander Zethrix appeared as a tall, angular figure whose crystalline exoskeleton reflected the room's lighting in prismatic patterns. Nestsinger Vorthak's projection showed a being of flowing organic curves with bioluminescent patches that pulsed in rhythm with their speech. Duke sat at the head of the table, his weathered hands folded over the worn coin that had become his anchor through countless negotiations. Sam stood behind him, her tactical pad displaying real-time data streams from both fleets, while the alien liaison positioned themselves to facilitate translation of cultural nuances. Before we begin, Duke said, his gray eyes meeting each alien representative in turn, I want to establish that this discussion is under flags of truce. No weapons, no deception, no hidden agendas. Zethrix's form flickered slightly as they shifted position. Your terms are acceptable, Earth Admiral, though I confess curiosity about your species' obsession with formal protocols. Vorthak's musical tones carried a note of amusement. Protocols exist to prevent misunderstanding, War Commander. The Earth humans show wisdom in this. Sam's foot began its familiar tapping rhythm as she processed the subtext flowing beneath the formal exchanges. Her green eyes darted between her tactical display and the alien representatives, cataloging inconsistencies in their stated positions. Let's start with the obvious question, Duke continued. How long has this conflict been ongoing? 17 cycles, Zethrix replied immediately. The collective harmony violated territorial agreements established by the Galactic Accords. 34 cycles, Vorthak corrected smoothly. The hegemony began aggressive expansion into traditional collective harvesting grounds, forcing us to defend our ancestral territories. Duke's fingers tightened almost imperceptibly around the coin. The discrepancy wasn't unusual in war. Each side typically had their own version of events. But something in the way both aliens spoke suggested deeper complications. Fascinating, Sam interjected, her voice carrying the sharp edge that indicated she'd spotted something significant. War Commander, you said 17 cycles. Nest Singer, you said 34. But our sensor logs from the battlefield show weapon signatures suggesting this particular engagement has been ongoing for at least 6 standard months. Both alien representatives fell silent, their projections flickering as they presumably consulted with their respective commands. The alien liaison's scales rippled with interest. "Admiral, if I may, there's something unusual about the energy signatures we're detecting from both fleets. The weapons are remarkably similar in their underlying technology, despite appearing completely different." Duke leaned forward, his command presence filling the small room. "Explain." Sam's fingers flew over her tactical pad, bringing up detailed scans of the recent battle. "Chief Engineer and I analyzed the weapon traces while you were setting up this meeting. Look at this." The holographic display showed overlapping energy patterns from both fleets' weapon systems. "The crystalline ships are using directed energy weapons that operate on a specific harmonic frequency," Sam continued, her technical expertise evident in her precise explanations. "The organic ships are firing plasma projectiles that destabilize at exactly the same frequency. It's almost like they're designed to cancel each other out," Duke finished, his gray eyes hardening. Zithrix's form had gone completely still, while Vorthak's bioluminescent patches had stopped their rhythmic pulsing. The silence stretched uncomfortably before the war commander spoke. "Your analysis is inaccurate. Hegemony weapons technology is far superior to collective biosystems." "Yet neither of you can achieve decisive victory," the alien liaison observed, their melodic voice carrying new undertones of suspicion, "despite apparent technological advantages on both sides." Duke stood, his weathered face set with the expression his crew had learned meant someone was about to have a very bad day. "Chief, patch me through to the engine room." The chief engineer's gruff voice crackled over the comm. "Sir, I've been going over the wreckage we collected during rescue operations. You're going to want to see this." Within minutes, the conference room's display showed detailed schematics of weapon components from both fleets. The chief engineer's image appeared alongside the technical data, his oil-stained hands pointing to specific components. "Admiral, these weapons aren't just similar. They're built using identical manufacturing processes. Same materials, same energy matrices, same basic design principles. Someone's supplying both sides." The revelation hit the room like a physical blow. Zithrix's crystalline form began emitting harsh, discordant tones, while Vorthak's bioluminescent patches flared with angry colors. "Impossible," Zithrix declared. "Hegemony weapons are manufactured in our most secure facilities." "Under license from approved contractors," Vorthak interrupted, their musical voice now carrying undertones of rage. "Contractors who assured us of exclusive technological advantages." Sam's multi-tool clicked rapidly as she processed the implications. "Admiral, if someone's been playing both sides, feeding them weapons designed to create stalemate rather than victory..." "Then this isn't a territorial dispute," Duke concluded. "It's a managed conflict. Someone's keeping you at war." The alien liaison's amber eyes glowed brighter as they accessed their own cultural databases. "In galactic history, there have been instances of shadow powers manipulating conflicts to maintain regional stability. The Zalvor Council has been suspected of such activities, though never proven." Duke's fingers found the worn coin again, its familiar weight grounding him as the scope of the situation became clear. This wasn't just a local conflict. It was part of something much larger and more sinister. "War Commander Nestsinger," Duke addressed both aliens directly, "how many other conflicts like this one are currently active in this sector?" Another uncomfortable silence before Vorthak responded. 7 major engagements, 12 minor territorial disputes, all ongoing for multiple cycles." "All supplied by the same contractors?" Sam asked, though her tone suggested she already knew the answer. Zithrix's form flickered with what might have been embarrassment. "Galactic Arms Consortium maintains neutrality by supplying defensive technologies to all legitimate governments." "Defensive technologies that somehow always perfectly counter each other," the chief engineer growled from the comm. "That's not business, that's manipulation." Duke moved to the viewport, his gray eyes studying the alien fleets holding position outside. Both groups of ships represented thousands of lives, entire civilizations committed to a war that might be nothing more than elaborate theater designed to keep them weak and distracted. "There's something else," Sam said quietly, her voice carrying the tone that meant she'd discovered something significant. Admiral, the weapon signatures we're seeing, they're based on human design principles from about 2 centuries ago. The room went dead silent. Even the background hum of ship systems seemed to pause as the implications sank in. "That's impossible," the alien liaison whispered, their scales rippling with shock. "Earth has been isolated from galactic affairs for over 300 years. Duke turned back to face the room, his weathered face set with grim determination. Not isolated, forgotten, but apparently not everything about humanity was forgotten. The coin felt heavier in his fingers as he considered the possibility that Earth's return to galactic affairs wasn't coincidental. It might be necessary. If someone was using human technology to manipulate galactic conflicts, then humanity had a responsibility to stop it. "War Commander Nestsinger," Duke said, his voice carrying the weight of command, "I propose a joint investigation into your weapons suppliers. My people will provide technical analysis. Your fleets can provide the political access we'll need." "You would involve yourself in galactic politics?" Zethrix asked, their crystalline forms shimmering with uncertainty. "We're already involved," Duke replied grimly. "The question is whether we're going to be victims or participants." Vorthak's bioluminescent patches pulsed thoughtfully. "Earth Admiral, if your analysis is correct, then our peoples have been manipulated into senseless conflict. The collective harmony values truth above territorial advantage. The hegemony values strength," Zethrix added, "but there is no strength in being deceived." Sam moved to stand beside Duke, her tactical pad showing the complex web of connections they were beginning to uncover. "Admiral, if we're right about this, we're not just looking at one conflict. We're looking at a galaxy-wide conspiracy." Duke nodded, his gray eyes reflecting the starlight from the viewport. Humanity had returned to find a galaxy at war, but not the kind of war they'd expected. This was something far more insidious, a carefully orchestrated manipulation that had turned entire civilizations into unwitting pawns. The worn coin pressed against his palm as he made the decision that would define humanity's role in galactic affairs. They hadn't come back to join existing conflicts. They'd come back to end them. The joint investigation fleet moved through hyperspace like a blade through silk. 47 human ships, flanked by select vessels from both the hegemony and collective harmony. Duke stood on his bridge watching the tactical display as their destination materialized. A supposedly neutral space station operated by the Galactic Arms Consortium. 2 minutes to reversion," Sam called from her tactical station, her green eyes focused on the sensor readings streaming across her displays. "Station's exactly where intelligence indicated, but—" She paused, her foot beginning its telltale tapping rhythm. "Admiral, I'm reading a lot more ships than expected for a trade facility." The alien liaison scales shimmered with nervous energy as they monitored communications from their allied vessels. War Commander Zethrix reports similar concerns. Nestsinger Vorthak's bioships are detecting unusual energy patterns in the system. Duke's fingers found the worn coin in his pocket, rolling it between his thumb and forefinger as he studied the preliminary data. 3 days of investigation had led them here, following a trail of shipping records and financial transactions that painted an increasingly disturbing picture of galactic manipulation. "Chief, how are our new friends adapting to the modifications?" Duke asked over the comm. The chief engineer's gruff voice carried satisfaction despite the circumstances. "Better than expected, sir. Turns out alien engineers appreciate good craftsmanship once they see it in action. The shield harmonics we shared are already showing improvements in their defensive capabilities." The irony wasn't lost on Duke. Human technology was being used to counter human technology, creating a spiral of escalation that served no one except the puppet masters pulling the strings. "Reversion in 30 seconds, the helmsman announced. Sam's tactical display shifted to battle-ready configuration, her multi-tool clicking rapidly as she made final adjustments to their defensive systems. "Admiral, I've got a bad feeling about this. The sensor ghosts we're picking up suggest at least 50 ships in system, but only 12 are showing on standard scans." "Cloaked?" Duke asked. "Or using sensor-dampening technology we haven't seen before," Sam replied. "Either way, we're walking into something bigger than a simple inspection." The hyperspace tunnel collapsed around them, spitting the joint fleet into normal space with the usual disorienting flash of pseudo-motion. What greeted them was not the neutral trading station they'd expected, but a massive military installation surrounded by a defensive fleet that outnumbered them 3-1. "Contact!" Sam's voice cut through the bridge's sudden tension. "Multiple sensor locks, weapons hot, Admiral, they were waiting for us." The main screen lit up with the image of a gaunt figure draped in dark robes, its face hidden beneath a hood that seemed to absorb light. When it spoke, its voice carried the cold precision of absolute authority. "Admiral Duke of Earth, War Commander Zethrix, Nest Singer Vorthak, you have interfered in matters beyond your understanding. You will surrender your fleets immediately or face the consequences of defying the Zalvor Council." Duke stepped forward, his weathered face set with grim determination. "I don't believe we've been properly introduced. You have us at a disadvantage." Sam's voice carried urgency as she processed the tactical situation. "Admiral, we're looking at advanced warships using technology I don't recognize. Energy signatures are off the charts, and they're moving into attack formations." The chief engineer's voice crackled over the comm. "Sir, I'm reading massive power spikes from the enemy fleet. Whatever they're about to hit us with, it's going to hurt." Duke's gray eyes never left the main screen as he addressed the Zalvor counselor. "Counselor Thren, we came here seeking answers about weapons trafficking and conflict manipulation. Your reception suggests we were asking the right questions. Your questions end here, Earth Admiral, as does your interference. The attack came without further warning. Energy beams of impossible intensity lanced through space, targeting the joint fleet with precision that spoke of advanced planning and perfect intelligence. But as the first salvo reached the human ships, something unexpected happened." "What?" Counselor Thren's composed voice carried the first note of surprise as the human fleet's shields not only held against the assault, but seemed to absorb and redirect the energy. Sam's hands flew over her controls, her tactical genius evident in the fleet's coordinated response. "Admiral, their weapons are using modified human energy matrices, but they're 2 centuries out of date. Our current shield harmonics are treating their attacks like a power source." The irony was devastating and immediate. The Zalvor Council's weapons, built on stolen human technology, were not only ineffective against modern human defenses, they were actually strengthening them. "Impossible!" Thren's voice had lost its cold composure. "Our weapons are based on the most advanced human technology available." Duke allowed himself a grim smile as the truth became clear. "Counselor, you've been using technology stolen from Earth over 2 centuries ago. Humanity didn't stop advancing just because the galaxy forgot we existed." The chief engineer's triumphant voice echoed across the bridge. "Admiral, their attacks are charging our capacitors faster than our reactors could manage. If they keep this up, we'll have enough power to jump half the galaxy." But the tactical situation was more complex than simple technological superiority. Sam's display showed the enemy fleet adapting, switching to kinetic weapons, and attempting to overwhelm the Allied ships through sheer numbers. "War Commander Zethrix is reporting heavy damage," the alien liaison announced, their scales rippling with distress. "The collective harmony vessels are holding, but barely." Duke's fingers tightened around the coin as he watched alien ships crewed by beings who had become allies through shared deception, take devastating hits meant for the human fleet. "Sam, can we extend our shield coverage?" "Working on it," she replied, her foot tapping furiously as she calculated power distributions. "If I reroute energy from the weapons we're not using—" The space around the joint fleet suddenly blazed with protective energy as human shield technology expanded to cover their alien allies. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Attacks that had been crippling the Allied ships were now absorbed by the human defensive matrix. Counselor Thren's image flickered with what might have been rage. "You cannot protect them all, Earth Admiral. We have fleets throughout the galaxy. Your interference here will only ensure greater conflicts elsewhere." "Actually," Sam interjected, her voice carrying the dangerous satisfaction of someone who had just solved a complex puzzle. "I don't think you do." Duke turned to his tactical officer, noting the predatory gleam in her green eyes. "Explain." "Admiral, the weapons they're using, they're not just based on old human technology, they're using the exact same manufacturing specifications, down to the molecular level. That means they're all coming from the same source, probably the same facility." The alien liaison's amber eyes brightened with understanding. "If the weapons are centrally manufactured, then the production facilities are critical infrastructure. Destroying them would cripple the Council's ability to maintain their manipulations." Duke's weathered face split into the kind of smile that had terrified enemy commanders for decades. "Counselor Thren, I believe you've just provided us with the intelligence we needed." "What intelligence?" Thren demanded, though uncertainty had crept into the mechanical voice. "The location of your manufacturing base," Sam replied cheerfully. "Your ship's quantum signatures are pointing right back to their point of origin. Basic stellar navigation." The tactical display shifted to show hyperspace vectors leading away from the Zalvor fleet, all converging on a single system roughly 50 light-years away. "You would not dare attack Council facilities directly," Thren stated, but the words carried more hope than conviction. Duke's gray eyes reflected the starlight as he considered the scope of what they'd uncovered. The Zalvor Council had been manipulating galactic conflicts for millennia, using stolen human technology to create perfectly balanced wars that served their interests. They'd turned entire civilizations into pawns in games of power that served no one but the puppet masters. "Counselor," Duke said quietly, his voice carrying the weight of absolute commitment, "you've made one critical error in your calculations." "And what is that?" Duke's fingers released the worn coin, letting it float in the zero gravity of the bridge as he prepared to give the order that would change everything. "You assumed humanity would be reasonable. The joint fleet moved as one, human ships providing defensive coverage as their alien allies added their firepower to the coordinated assault. The Zalvor defensive fleet, caught between technological obsolescence and tactical surprise, found themselves fighting a battle they had never planned for against an enemy they had never truly understood." As space lit up with the fury of unleashed weapons, Duke watched the tactical display with the calm satisfaction of someone who had finally found a worthy opponent. The galaxy had forgotten Earth, but they were about to remember why that had been a mistake. The hunt for the puppet masters had begun. The Zalvor manufacturing facility hung in space like a metallic tumor, its twisted spires and geometric impossibilities defying conventional understanding of engineering. Duke stood on his bridge, studying the tactical display, his gray eyes tracking the defensive installations that surrounded what appeared to be the source of 2 centuries' worth of galactic manipulation. "Preliminary scans complete," Sam reported, her voice tight with barely controlled anger. "Admiral, it's worse than we thought. They're not just using human technology, they're using human people." The main screen shifted to show the interior of the massive station, revealing what could only be described as a technological graveyard. Sections of Earth ships, their hull markings still visible despite centuries of modification, had been incorporated into the station's structure. But more disturbing were the biosignatures Sam's enhanced sensors were detecting. "Explain," Duke said quietly, though his fingers had already found the worn coin in his pocket. "There are approximately 3,000 human life signs aboard that station," the alien liaison reported, their scales rippling with distress. "The quantum signatures suggest they've been there for a very long time." The chief engineer's voice crackled over the comm from the engine room. "Sir, I'm analyzing the station's power output. Those aren't just human ships they've incorporated. They're using human engineering knowledge to run the whole facility. Our people are literally powering their war machine." Duke's weathered face remained impassive, but Sam could see the muscle twitching in his jaw that indicated barely suppressed rage. The implications were staggering. The Zalvor Council hadn't merely stolen technology, they had enslaved a lost fragment of humanity, forcing them to maintain the very systems that perpetuated galactic conflict. The hunt for the puppet masters had begun. The joint fleet, now a unified force driven by a shared sense of outrage and a burgeoning alliance, prepared for the assault. War Commander Zethrix, his crystalline form radiating a cold fury, contacted Duke. Earth Admiral, the hegemony offers its full tactical support. This deception must be answered with overwhelming force. Nest Singer Vorthak's melodic voice followed, tinged with a sorrowful resolve. The collective harmony stands with you, Earth Admiral. To enslave minds, especially those who were once free, is an abomination. We will liberate them. Duke nodded, his gaze fixed on the Zalvor station. Understood. Sam, tactical plan. I want those human lives extracted with minimal risk. Chief, prepare for boarding actions. Alien liaison, coordinate with our allies. This isn't just a battle, it's a rescue mission. Sam's fingers flew across her console, a blur of motion. Admiral, the station's defenses are formidable. Energy dampeners, kinetic barriers, and what look like automated drone swarms. But their core systems are powered by those enslaved humans. If we can disrupt the power flow, even temporarily, it creates a window. How temporary? Duke asked. Seconds, maybe a minute, Sam replied, her brow furrowed in concentration. Enough for a surgical strike. We'll need a coordinated EMP burst, followed by a rapid insertion of boarding parties. The human ships will provide the EMP, our allies will suppress the drones and kinetic defenses. The chief engineer's voice boomed over the comm. Surgical strike, you say? My teams are ready, Admiral. We've got modified cutting tools and portable shield generators. Just point us at the access points. The alien liaison relayed the plan to Zethrix and Vorthak, their responses immediate and resolute. The hegemony ships, with their precise energy weapons, would focus on the kinetic barriers, while the collective's bioships, with their adaptable plasma, would overwhelm the drone swarms. Humanity, with their advanced shield harmonics, would deliver the EMP and protect the boarding parties. The assault was meticulously planned. The joint fleet positioned itself, a crescent of allied power against the Zalvor's dark bastion. Duke gave the order. All ships open fire. Sam, initiate EMP sequence on my mark. Space erupted in a symphony of destruction. Energy beams, plasma bolts, and kinetic projectiles converged on the Zalvor station. The station's defenses flared to life, a desperate array of shields and automated weapons attempting to repel the onslaught. But the coordinated attack, fueled by a unified purpose, began to chip away at its formidable protection. EM sequence ready, Admiral, Sam yelled, her eyes glued to the power readings. Mark! A blinding wave of electromagnetic energy pulsed from the human fleet, washing over the Zalvor station. For a terrifying moment, the station's defensive systems flickered, then died. The automated drones ceased their relentless assault, and the kinetic barriers collapsed. Boarding parties away, Duke roared. All ships maintain suppressive fire, protect our teams. Human assault shuttles, accompanied by smaller, agile craft from the Hegemonian Collective, darted through the chaos, their targets the exposed access points Sam had identified. Inside, the chief engineer led the primary boarding team. His gruff voice, a constant stream of commands as they breached the station's hull. "We're in, Admiral," the chief's voice crackled. "Heavy resistance from Zalvor security forces, but we're making progress. These corridors are a maze." On the bridge, Sam tracked the boarding team's progress, her green eyes narrowed in concentration. "They're moving towards the central power conduits, Admiral. That's where the human life signs are concentrated." Duke watched the tactical display, his heart pounding a rhythm against his ribs. This was personal now, not just about ending a war, but about rescuing their own, lost for centuries. Inside the station, the chief engineer's team fought through Zalvor guards, their advanced weaponry and combat training proving superior to the Council's surprised forces. They reached a massive chamber, its walls pulsing with arcane energy. Thousands of human figures, gaunt and pale, were suspended within glowing conduits, their life force being siphoned to power the station. "By the stars," the chief muttered, his voice hoarse with shock. "They're alive, barely." "Admiral, we've located the enslaved humans." The chief's voice came over the comm, tinged with a raw emotion Duke rarely heard from him. "They're hooked into the station's power grid. It's horrific." "Can you free them, Chief?" Duke asked, his voice low and steady. "We can try, sir. It's going to be delicate. Disconnecting them improperly could kill them. Sam, hearing the chief's report, immediately began running simulations. Admiral, if we can reroute power from the hegemony and collective ships, we might be able to create a temporary, stable energy field around each individual, allowing for safe disconnection. It's risky, but it's the only way to ensure their survival. Duke didn't hesitate. Do it, Sam, alien liaison. Explain the plan to Zethryx and Vorthak. Tell them their energy output will be critical. The Allied commanders, despite the inherent risks to their own ships, agreed without question. The bonds forged in shared combat and shared outrage were proving stronger than centuries of manipulated conflict. As the chief engineer's teams worked frantically to sever the connections, a chilling voice echoed through the comms. You will not take our power source, Earth Admiral. These are our resources acquired through careful negotiation. Counselor Thren's projection materialized on the bridge, his hooded face radiating cold fury. He was no longer composed, his voice shaking with a desperate rage. Negotiation? Duke scoffed, gesturing to the main screen showing the enslaved humans. You call this negotiation? You stole our people, Counselor. You enslaved them to fuel your wars. This ends now. You misunderstand, Earth Admiral. These are the descendants of those who chose to remain. They were offered a place, a purpose, when their home world was forgotten. Thren's voice was a hiss. A purpose is batteries, Sam retorted, her green eyes blazing. That's not a choice, Counselor. That's exploitation. Thren's projection flickered. You are naive. The galaxy requires stability. We provided it through controlled conflict, preventing true chaos. These resources were a necessary component. There's nothing stable about a galaxy built on lies and suffering, Duke countered, and humanity doesn't trade freedom for false stability. As the chief engineer's teams began the delicate process of freeing the enslaved humans, the Zalvor fleet outside, now fully aware of the stakes, launched a desperate counterattack. Admiral, they're focusing fire on the station's access points, Sam warned. They're trying to cut off our boarding parties. Hegemony ships defensive screen around the station's breaches, Zethryx's voice commanded. Collective, provide covering fire! The battle intensified, a desperate struggle between the Zalvor's desire to maintain their dark secret and the joint fleet's unwavering resolve to liberate the enslaved. Inside the station, the chief engineer's teams worked with a grim determination. Each successful disconnection met with a faint, almost imperceptible surge of hope. First 100 disconnected, Admiral, the chief reported, his voice strained but triumphant. They're weak, but alive, setting up medical triage. Duke felt a surge of relief, quickly followed by renewed resolve. They wouldn't stop until every last human was free. The Zalvor Council, realizing their primary power source was being dismantled, began to falter. Their fleet, no longer receiving the constant stable energy from the human batteries, started to show signs of strain. Their advanced weapons flickered. Their shields wavered. Their energy signatures are dropping, Sam announced, a fierce grin spreading across her face. The Council's power is failing. Counselor Thren, Duke addressed the flickering projection. Your reign of manipulation is over. Your power is built on a foundation of lies, and it's crumbling. Thren's image distorted, his voice a desperate snarl. You will regret this, Earth Admiral. The galaxy will descend into anarchy without our guidance. Then the galaxy will learn to guide itself, Duke replied, his voice firm, and humanity will be here to help. As the last of the enslaved humans were disconnected and transported to the medical bays of the Allied ships, the Zalvor manufacturing facility went dark, its twisted spires losing their malevolent glow. The Zalvor fleet, deprived of its power and its purpose, began to retreat, their coordinated attacks dissolving into a chaotic rout. A wave of cheers erupted across the bridge, a mix of exhaustion and exhilaration. Zethryx and Vorthak contacted Duke, their voices filled with gratitude and a newfound respect. Earth Admiral, your courage and your people's ingenuity have revealed a truth we were too blind to see, Zethryx stated. The hegemony owes you a debt. The collective harmony will never forget this day, Earth Admiral, Vorthak added. You have freed not just lives, but entire civilizations from a web of deceit. Duke, though weary, felt a profound sense of accomplishment. The worn coin in his pocket felt lighter, its purpose fulfilled. The aftermath was a whirlwind of activity. The rescued humans, though frail and disoriented, were slowly recovering under the care of human and alien medical teams. Their stories, fragmented and harrowing, painted a grim picture of centuries of forced labor, their memories of Earth fading into distant echoes. They were the descendants of a lost colony ship, captured by the Zalvor centuries ago and repurposed as living power conduits. The Zalvor Council, exposed and humiliated, faced a galactic tribunal. Evidence presented by Duke's fleet, corroborated by the liberated humans and the now enlightened hegemony and collective, was irrefutable. The Council's manipulation of galactic conflicts, their enslavement of a forgotten human colony, and their vast network of deceit were laid bare. The Zalvor were stripped of their authority, their vast empire fractured, and their leaders imprisoned. The immediate consequence was a period of intense instability. The 7 major conflicts and 12 minor disputes that the Zalvor had meticulously managed erupted into genuine, unmanaged chaos. But this time, it was different. Humanity, with its unique blend of technological prowess and unwavering moral compass, stepped into the void. Duke, now hailed as a liberator across the galaxy, found himself at the forefront of a new era of galactic diplomacy. The first step was to establish a new galactic governing body, one built on transparency and mutual respect, not manipulation. The hegemony and collective, their eyes open to the Zalvor's treachery, became humanity's staunchest allies, their combined influence forming the bedrock of the new galactic alliance. Sam, her tactical brilliance now recognized across species, became a key strategist in the alliance's peacekeeping efforts. She developed advanced sensor networks to detect emerging conflicts and early warning systems to prevent escalation. Her focus shifted from winning battles to preventing them, a task she approached with the same fierce dedication. The chief engineer, with his newfound access to alien technologies, spearheaded a massive technological exchange program. Human engineering principles, combined with the unique insights of the hegemony's crystalline structures and the collective's organic biosystems, led to breakthroughs that revolutionized galactic infrastructure, energy production, and medical science. The rescued humans, once batteries, became vital contributors, their unique understanding of Zalvor technology proving invaluable in dismantling the remaining remnants of the Council's influence. The alien liaison, now a celebrated diplomat, played a crucial role in bridging cultural divides. Their deep understanding of diverse species' customs and their ability to articulate humanity's core values helped foster trust and cooperation where only suspicion had existed before. They became the voice of the new alliance, advocating for peace and understanding across the stars. Years passed. The scars of the Zalvor's manipulation slowly began to heal. The managed conflicts, once endless cycles of attrition, gradually resolved through mediated negotiations and shared resource management. The Galactic Alliance, with humanity as a central pillar, grew into a beacon of cooperation and progress. Earth, once forgotten, was now revered. Its unique history of isolation, its struggles and triumphs, had forged a species unlike any other in the galaxy, one that valued freedom above all else and possessed the courage to fight for it, not just for themselves, but for others. Duke, his hair now almost entirely white, stood on the observation deck of the Alliance's central hub, a massive orbital station that dwarfed even the largest Zalvor facility. Below him, ships of every conceivable design, from the sleek crystalline vessels of the hegemony to the vibrant bioships of the collective, moved in harmonious patterns, engaged in trade, exploration, and joint scientific ventures. He felt a gentle nudge at his side. Sam, her auburn hair now streaked with silver, smiled. "Quite a view, Admiral." "Indeed, Commander," Duke replied, his gaze sweeping across the bustling space lanes. "The galaxy remembered us, and we helped it remember itself." The worn coin, still in his pocket, felt lighter than ever. Its purpose had evolved from a personal anchor in battle to a symbol of a promise kept. Humanity had returned not as conquerors, but as catalysts for change. They had shown the galaxy that true strength lay not in manipulation and control, but in empathy, cooperation, and the unwavering belief in the right to freedom for all sentient life. The galaxy was no longer a place of forgotten Earths and endless managed wars. It was a place of new beginnings, a testament to what could be achieved when diverse species united under a common purpose. And at its heart stood humanity, forever changed by their journey, and forever committed to building a future where no one was forgotten and no one was enslaved again. The story of humanity's return was not just a tale of survival, but a testament to the enduring spirit of hope, courage, and the profound impact one forgotten species could have on an entire galaxy.